This is August 20th, 2023, and this is an NGL intro, The Power of the Soft Qualities to Transform Patriarchy. And welcome, Mickey, welcome all.
Hello, everyone. I want to wait another minute just to give more people a chance to come. And let me start. Hello again. And I always like to start these by hearing from anyone who might have not been before to any event of mine that I'm aware of, to hear from a couple of people, what is it that led you to choose to come here to? Oh, I was muted all this time. I was muted. I was talking. No? Oh, but I was remuted now when you muted everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Because suddenly it's like, oh, I'm muted. What is going on?
No.
Okay. So I would like to hear from a couple of people. What led you to choose to come here if you haven't been here before? And please orient to the topic and not to me. People often tend to say, oh, I've heard about you and I want to see your work. And I want to actually connect us with the topic. This is a purpose connection, not a person connection, because it helps me kind of like get a little tiny bit of feel for where people are, and it helps me orient. So is there anyone who is here who's not been before to events with me and is willing to share what led you to come here? You just press your raise hand electronic. All right, there's no such person that is willing enough. Oh, there you are. Hello, Calliope. How do you pronounce your name?
That was right. You did it well. Thank you. So I have been to an NGL event. I'm currently doing the basic course in nonviolent communication for liberation.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But in terms of this topic, I saw it and immediately was curious because this concept to surround the patriarchy with tenderness or with love instead of like smash the patriarchy really speaks. And in my the last 5 years have been very potent in terms of like my inner process and to discover the parts of me that push toward intensity or toward strength or toward many things, and that even those parts maybe more than the other parts, they really want softness, they really want love. And it is conditioning through the patriarchy and through our culture to want to fix it and to want to push it and to and like I am generally also a soft person, but there's still all of those places in me. So it's really, it's perfect timing, and I'm really feeling the desire for softness and the necessity of softness. So I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. That was so nourishing. I only want to say one thing, which is I totally believe that there can be intensity and softness simultaneously. I don't want to relegate intensity to something in the realm of the not welcome. I think, surgically uncoupling intensity from judgment and separation is quite a project, But intensity in and of itself is an expression of life. And I want to receive it like that. Does that resonate for you?
Yes, definitely. And particularly like surgically removing it from specific expressions of intensity that are so common, but really, or allowing it also to be indeed an expression of life, and like the intensity of tenderness, of joy, of love, all of those things also.
Of grief, of helplessness,
yes.
of everything. I am not advocating being nice and soft in the sense of niceness and being easy for others.
Yeah.
I'm advocating softness in terms of the frequency of the wavelength within us that is carrying what we bring forth. It's a very delicate piece of understanding, and I hope by the end of the time we'll have more clarity together. Thank you. This feels like enough for me to actually get. It was like, nah, we already got into the substance, so let's go. So for anyone who's not been into any of these before, the way I do them, yes, Menaka, you want to speak before I'm done? No, okay. The way I do them is I prepared slides, a set of Google slides, and I like to go through them because they give an arc of meaning that I like to follow. I don't want to lecture, so I go into them, and then I come back and we have dialogue, and then I go back to the slides and come back, and that's the dance that I've done in every single one of these. Yes, Menaka.
Hi, Nikki, and hi, everyone. I want to introduce that I'm holding a function, and Mickey has very generously invited me to do that. And I'm not present in all calls, so sometimes Mickey doesn't know if I'm going to come or not. I just show up.
That's right. It's true. Yeah.
I wanted to raise my hand and introduce myself and what the function is. It's to navigate if any pieces come up that I'm feeling impacted, and I sense there may be larger impacts in the field around power and privilege. And today I'm also coming with an intention to learn how to do it with soft qualities.
Okay. I also want the function to include pointing out ways in which questions of power and privilege are navigated that you do like, that may not be visible to people. It's both. It's not just when there are impacts. I want the full range. I want the learning to include what we like. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So I am now going to get started. Here it is. I always am amazed the first moment I get into it that actually everything fits together. The right screen comes up. It is the right size, and I think you're all seeing the slide. Yes, it's visible. Great. Okay, so the usual way that I do any of these is that I start from vision, then I look at where we are now and what the gap is and what we can do about the gap from the perspective of the topic. So there's a general arc, and it's always different content. So today, I want to start with a vision of the mindset of trust. There's two parts to the vision that I want to present. The vision is always what life is like before patriarchy and what I envision possible if we ever manage to indeed surround the patriarchal field with love and reintegrate all that we have learned from it into a new way of being. So the mindset of trust includes trust in life, trust in life, as we will get to in a moment, is where the break happened that led to patriarchy, when something overwhelmed people to the point of not being able to maintain trust in life collectively. I also want to say, whatever is on the slides, you don't need to copy it, because the slides you will get, at least so far, everyone who has participated in any of them has gotten them. And unless something changes, you will get them. So just if you want to write things, write your notes about it, but not like busily try to copy, because if you try to copy, you're less likely to just be with what is happening and listen. There is acceptance of our dependence on love. It is amazingly difficult for people within patriarchal societies to recognize it, to feel it, to accept it, to own it. And it is an essential piece of being human that we depend on love from others. Biologically, it's not a deficiency. It is our biological design to live in an environment of love. Within communities that work in alignment with life, there is generosity and other orientation. Other orientation is something quite unfamiliar within patriarchal societies. Other orientation is looking outward at what is happening, who else is here, what is going on for them, what are the needs in the field, not just who am I, what do I need, how am I going to go about it, but what is happening. It's an orientation to the whole. And it comes from mothering. It comes from us as a species having an enormously long period of dependence that in some ways never ends. We are coming into the world unable to survive on our own in the most physical way. If there weren't people who are oriented to us, we wouldn't make it. So the orientation to others comes from adapting to a very long childhood. Within the mindset of trust, collaboration is a baseline way of orienting. Everybody collaborates. And in order to collaborate well, you need to share lots of information about what's going on, which we no longer know how to do well at our current times. And finally, there's the full human expression of needs and emotions, which is where the intensity thing comes up, Calliope. That's the mindset of trust. This is the mindset. Now I'm going to go to the second part of the vision and then come back to chat for a moment. And that is the material basis of sustaining human life. In modern societies, a lot of people are habituated to thinking only in terms of individuals and in terms of ideas and consciousness and relationships, and not thinking so much on the material plane, especially in the global north. And I'm more and more seeing that that's because the material basis of our life is hidden from us, in the way that we can go to the supermarket and give money and get everything. We don't actually know what is going on that is making it possible for human life to continue. It's hidden. I think that's part of why we can't think about it. Still, we have human systems. Our current human systems are not oriented to needs. That's what functioning, aligned human system is, one that is oriented to needs, that is recognizing resource limitations instead of trying to pretend like you can ignore them. And while before patriarchy, there was no need to think about planetary limits, and no one would even consider that such existed because there were so few humans and such a big planet. Part of the integration, a post-patriarchal society will need to think of planetary limits because our levels of consumption are so much bigger than they used to. that we would need to hold that in consideration, which now we don't. I'm not saying we as in you and I, we may be, but we as a collective human field, we're not doing that. The principle of willingness within the material basis of sustaining human life that is aligned with life, everything is done within willingness. You can't expect things to continue to function when anyone is forced to do anything that they don't have willingness to do. We don't seem to get that. When you bake control and enforcement into a system, you bake into the system repeated waves of mistrust. So willingness is essential, and the capacity lens is integrated into how systems function. The capacity lens, just last month, we completed a whole course about it. It's a very rigorous lens that allows us to make decisions based on what is possible and not based on what we wish were true or force anything to be true. So those are the two things, the material basis and the mindset. And now here I am. Let's have a bit of a chat. Questions, comments, ahas, concerns, anything. Please bring it forward. Anytime somebody brings forward something, everyone benefits. I'm quite confident of that, especially when it's Pam. She always gets that little part that wasn't clear enough. And then when she asks it and I explain it, everybody goes, ah, yes, now I get it.
Well, there's a good question from Natalie in the chat. She says, did someone get the last one about capacity?
Uh-huh.
What I was going to bring is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but when I see all that, I think of my own capacity limits, particularly one very eye-opening thing that happened to me was the very beginning of the COVID restrictions and people had fun. And I had to get some medicine for my husband. And I had a sore throat. And there was a sign in the door, if you have any of these symptoms, like including a sore throat, don't come in. And I thought to myself, I'm willing to risk everybody else's well-being just to get this medicine for my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was not an integrity for me. And yet I couldn't stop myself.
Okay. The piece there is that it was all on your shoulders. There wasn't anyone or anywhere that you could go to and say, I need medicine for my husband. Can you help? When we individualize everything, individuals are going to reach their capacity limits very quickly. And if it doesn't travel around, then things like this will happen. It doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm so grateful to you for exposing this. There was one time at a retreat that I did that somebody put on the flip chart, put like a big sheet of paper and said, please write down all the things that you've ever, juicy things that you've done that you're ashamed of. And people just wrote and wrote things. It was just hilarious. My favorite one was this woman who was a professor of 400 people. And she just could not bring herself to actually read all their papers or whatever and grade them. And she just assigned them grades. Yep, that apparently happened. I'm not going to say who it is in case anybody knows. Yeah, so it's a lot of lack of integrity is coming from people left to their own devices in a context that isn't oriented to needs. We can't do that.
In a context that isn't oriented to needs.
Yeah.
to their own devices in a context that isn't oriented to needs, which is pretty much our general context.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I'll give you one very bizarre evidence for this. Go back and look at the feelings list, the basic NVC feelings list, and you will see that the list of feelings that arise when our needs are not met is about twice as long as the list of feelings that arise when our needs are met. Guess why? Don't answer, just see what that points to. Yeah. Okay. This is one of those things. It's like, how can anybody teach NVC without a systemic perspective? Because that phenomenon of there being many more unmet need-related feelings than the other one is a systemic phenomenon that can help people learn NVC. All right. Noor.
Hi, Mickey.
Hello.
Hold
Do I
on,
get to see your face?
Yes. No, you should. This thing you said about how the material conditions, I think that's how you said, the material conditions of life is kept hidden from us, or like, and you know, that makes us less aware of like planetary limitations and all of this. I get that, and it makes me very sad, and I feel like in my own way, what's present for me is I want to know, how can we make that more visible both to ourselves and to others? Because it's obviously built into the system, and everything is efficiency based, not based on the definition of efficiency that you've told us, but just this, like, go to the grocery store and there's such alienation. And just a simple thing, like yesterday I tried dragon fruit for the first time and I loved the taste, and I researched it because I wanted to know the medicinal benefits, and I had no idea it grew from a cactus. Like, when I saw the picture of the tree, I just found it so beautiful, and on my head I would have never guessed it would grow from a cactus in like Mexico or in Central America. And there are just little moments where this gets perforated for me, but it's not sufficient. It's not sufficient.
And then you also don't know what it takes to get that dragon fruit from the tree to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it really necessary for all the people on the planet to have a taste of dragon fruit? Is it really necessary?
That's fair. That's fair.
Fair? I'm not looking for fair.
Hey, I know you don't. That's valid. That's valid. That makes sense to me.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I like it because then you're owning your process. When you say that's fair or that's valid, you leave it outside you. So in terms of how you
I see.
you perforate, one of the ways is you keep bringing things to your own material plane, which is not the ideas, but the sensations.
Oh. Okay, wait, can you say more about that?
No, because it isn't actually part of what I want to focus on today. So keep it, and if at the end there's more spaciousness, we can come back to it. I want to follow the arc, even though it's super interesting for me.
Mickey, when you say be with the sensations of it, I guess I'm not clear what you mean by that.
When something makes sense to you, there is a sensation, there's a body sensation of like, that makes sense.
Okay. Kind of like what just happened too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I am following you. Thank you.
All right. Great. Back to the slides. Okay. Now we move to the current reality. The mindset that we are in now is a mindset of mistrust. It's the baseline of relationships, even to self and to others and to systems and to others far away. There is a baseline mistrust baked into everything. At the level at the deepest layer, which is the layer of how we relate to life, the loss of trust in life means that we are in scarcity. Scarcity isn't an observation. It's not a physical phenomenon. People are mistaken thinking that scarcity is there isn't enough. There isn't enough also isn't an observation because it doesn't include what are the needs, what is going on, what are the resources, how are we going to care for the resources. There is finitude. We do not have infinite resources. In fact, I'm just realizing it's precisely our inability to relate effectively to finitude that has gotten us to try to create infinity. Because if we have infinity, we don't have scarcity, which isn't actually true, because scarcity is not about how much there is, it's about how we relate to it. And we have a basic not enough that is always there. That's the basic mistrust in life. Like back to your medicine example, no imagination that there's possibly any other way to get the medicine to your husband. I'm not being critical of you. I'm just using it as an example. No imagination, no standing there going like, oh, what if I take this seriously? Is there anyone else that I could call? Could I ask someone, could I call the store and tell them what the situation is and ask them to bring it to the store and leave it outside and I will give them money electronically? Even that, which is still within you. No creativity, no imagination, just a contraction that comes up, that is scarcity. I must. You recognize what I'm saying, Pam?
I do, but I'm trying to decide if there's relevance. It was medical cannabis, and you have to show you only one person could pick up that medicine for him, and that was me with showing my ID.
Yeah, but you can show your ID at the door. You can call the store people and tell them the situation and say, can you send somebody to the front so I can show my ID? It's solvable. When you make a human relationship, many more things are solvable. It's like functioning outside of relationship. It's all on you. And then the happens. You see it?
I do, and I also see that the mindset of the time, brand new pandemic, was to not, to just put really hard lines and not.
Yes, that mindset is within the patriarchal mindset. It wasn't the same everywhere. There were other places where people dealt with that differently.
Yes, makes sense.
When I researched this at the time, I don't know how it is now, places that were led by women and the very extremely few places that were calling themselves socialist had lower rates of contagion. Why? I bet anything because there was more orientation to the whole, to care, to relationship in one form or another. No matter how critical you might be of the political aspect of socialist countries, there is an orientation to feeding and clothing and sheltering and educating everyone. That creates a certain level of solidarity that is absent in market-based, individualized societies. All right, which brings us to separation. Because we don't trust each other. So what I was hoping that COVID would do, I don't know if you read the series of articles that I wrote at the time. I was seeing it as an immense opportunity to make visible the ways that the system wasn't working, that were hidden from us, because it made it impossible to keep hiding. And instead of shifting, It's more and more and more of the same. It's like the heartbreak that I carry from the lost opportunity is immense. So what we do is we control, we separate, we do either or, we assign who deserves what, and we completely don't have real trust in each other and in the prospect of collaboration. Somebody has to tell people what to do, otherwise there's no collaboration. And within all of this, we function with very little access to agency, most of us. Agency meaning the capacity to believe that I have the power to do things, to care for what matters to me. Most people go around without a big sense of agency. We lose our capacity for creative problem solving, as we saw with the medicine example. I'm going to milk it a little longer, but not forever.
No problem.
And ultimately, we don't have trust in ourselves to care for ourselves and for what matters to us. And in that way, we have no trust in life, no trust in each other. Not trust is too much. We lost trust in life, we lost trust in each other, and we lost trust in ourselves. That's the mindset of distrust within which we function. And it's a baseline, which means that the littlest thing that happens, we can lose more trust. We don't walk towards each other when something doesn't work. We walk away from each other, for example. That's the mindset. Now, the material basis. So, sustaining patriarchy requires a lot of extraction. And extraction always is against what anything wants. Plants don't want to grow in rows. Animals don't want to grow in cages. Humans don't want to work the jobs that exist. We are coerced, all of us, all forms of life are coerced to give things, which accelerates planetary depletion. And in part, because our way of using resources is so inefficient because of lack of collaboration that we need more and more and more all the time. And in part, it's because we need more and more and more for creating profit. If resources, think about it, if resources were used efficiently, there would be less profit. Just think, it's a wild thought to realize this. I didn't actually think this simple thought until this moment. I just want to take a moment to recognize this, that inefficiency is actually necessary for profit to happen. The socialization that we receive both through the family structures and through schooling lead us to internalize the patriarchal mindset of mistrust that we talked about. And as Calliope reminded us, we want to create change, and we want to do it with patriarchal means because we don't have a different picture. So that's the reality that we live in. And now I'm going to go back to see what little bit of dialogue we can have now. Who has a comment, a question, an insight, a response to something? Yes, Katharina.
I realized yesterday that I have less trust in myself to like move towards togetherness because I don't see like examples of that like often enough to believe that if I do say or move towards something in that direction that it's gonna work out in the end. And so yeah, I just realized yesterday that that's something that's kind of like a reason why like I don't,
Yeah.
or I kind of stay like back, or like whenever something happens I also just like move away from it instead of like trying to pull it together kind of thing.
Yeah. I really appreciate you naming it because I really don't think you are alone. It's very common, and it takes enormous fortitude and courage to choose otherwise. And part of why creating community like we're doing within NGL, as imperfect as it is, strengthens each of us in our own little sphere to move forward more when we know that there's this community that we can come back to and be held. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Any question? What are you thinking about? As you are hearing me talk about this, what are you thinking about? Rebecca.
I'm thinking about my current situation with the church. I'm getting a divorce, and it's very rare in my church to get a divorce. And usually, if you want to get a divorce, it has to be for abuse or something really severe, and it has to be approved by the elders and blah, blah, blah. Those things don't apply to me. I didn't get approval. I just went and did it. And now I'm very afraid for what's going to happen to me. Will I be, excommunicated or in some way punished? And I feel a real loss of agency, and I don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it is real.
Absolutely. We're not going to be able to change the external circumstances. The only thing we can change is the way we respond to them. That's a big, deep, uncomfortable lesson. You're not going to be able to change the way that the elders of your community are going to respond to you. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But how do you respond to their response is completely within your sphere of influence.
And I have no idea how I even want to respond.
Exactly. That's the first thing. You can't have agency without knowing what you want. It's not possible.
Do you have any guidance?
It would be taking us into an individual process.
Sure.
I think the thing that I like is the magic wand questions. So find a magic wand question, which is if everything was exactly working, if this community really functioned, what would I want in this situation? What would I want? Probably my first guess is you would want support and care for both you and your partner. Even if you're deciding to break up the situation, I have some trust that you would want this person to be cared for.
Hmm.
So your picture is care for you and care for this person. Let's say that this is the deepest thing that you want. I just came up with an example. Then the question is, what is the littlest step that I can take in that direction in how I respond to the elders? And maybe it's so small that they won't even notice, but you will.
Okay.
Got it?
I do. Yeah. I still don't know how. Like when I'm in his office and being told what's going to happen to me, I don't know how I want to respond, but I'll figure it out. Thank you.
Listen to what is true instead of thinking what it ought to be. Just listen to what is actually true. Thank you for the
what do you mean true? Like true for me?
sensations.
Oh, okay.
Experiences within you.
Okay.
They will be your clues to what is true. Trying to figure it out is still within what you were told.
Okay, I get that. Thank you.
Yeah. Wendy, hello.
Hello. I want to pause for a minute and just feel that the concern and the care and vulnerability that Rebecca is bringing.
Thank you. And I appreciate what
Okay.
you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing very much. I also want to note that there's probably 15 other people on the call who are holding
Yes.
immense dilemmas that we don't know how to handle within the system, how it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
My question is, can you speak more about inefficiency?
Yeah.
Help me understand what you were
Okay.
saying.
For example, when you buy a lawnmower, you're going to use the lawnmower if you are a normal, average US household, you will use it once a week on Sunday. Right? Something like that. So 5 days of the week and 20 hours of the last day, it stands there unused. And you're not the only family that does it. Everybody on the block. I'm just making up. This is kind of like the stereotypical suburban middle class block in the US. Every family has a lawn. Every family has a lawnmower. Is that efficient use of resources? No, it is much more efficient for all the neighbors to come together and calculate how many hours a week are needed for maintaining all the lawns, bracketing the whole question about whether lawns are necessary and blah, blah, blah. But even if we accept that, how many hours a week of a lawnmower do we need? And how many lawnmowers do we need so that it can accommodate the various people's schedule? So there's a community, for example, Twin Oaks, it's called. I think it's in Philadelphia, I'm not sure. I think about 100 people live in that community, and they have 17 cars. That, to me, is efficient use of resources. Do you see what I mean? They have figured out that with 17 cars, 100 people can get to where they want to get to. Again, never mind, do we really need individual cars? Do we want this system? Not this. Within the system as it is, you can increase the efficiency of resource use by collaborating. Just one example. I could give you many others, but I don't really want to, if this one is enough.
Thank you. No, this helps. Thank you. I feel much more clear.
Menaka?
Yeah, I want to appreciate what you were sharing before to Rebecca. How I perceive it is that you're suggesting to shift the resources from being outside us, external, to internal. Whatever the situation is external, we can grow our internal resources.
Thank you. I really appreciate the way you said it, because we tend to think that if we don't have access to external resources, there's nothing we can do. And the actual reality is, as our internal resources grow, we grow in power. And anybody who really wants to get a picture of what that is, I invite you to read Etty Hillesum's diary. It's called An Interrupted Life. She was in the most inhuman conditions possible in a concentration camp. And within that, her power grew every day. Thanks, Menaka. All right, going to go back to the next slides. Pam, can you wait, or is it important before the next slide?
It's just related. It's just related to the last slide.
Then make it brief.
It's brief. Just that I was listening to a radio show on the orientation of American films and TV shows, and it's all oriented towards people being helpless. It's either all rich people, focus on rich people, or it's on police procedurals or superheroes, and there's nothing in this in the sphere, in the Hollywood sphere, about people getting together to make change together. Rather, it's someone else has to save us.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So here's the dilemma that we're facing, which is that patriarchal means will not transform patriarchy. Back to the smashing metaphor. We can't actually win against patriarchal structures. Even if we tried, we can't. And that's for two reasons. One is at the level of the material capacity to amass power and weapons and money. Those of us who are not within the system are not going to be able to have enough to counterbalance what the system has. Number one. Number two, even if we had the same capacity on the material plane, we wouldn't be able to use it with the same ruthlessness, because if we're even thinking of changing patriarchy, we're not as full of hate as some people who are continuing the existing structures might become. So we would be more restrained than the powers of state and corporations that we would be up against. So we can't win. We can't force anyone into having choice. The moment we force someone, they're not going to have choice. So choice will need to be found without being forced. If somebody has done anything, moved away or anything, we can't shame them into reconnection. If we shame them, it just accentuates it. And we can't bring about flow through control. So it isn't actually possible to transform patriarchy with patriarchal means. We're only going to create another version of patriarchy when you do that. That is a really, really tough lesson to take in, because there are lots of people who say, yes, we want a vision of peace, connection, collaboration, but until we get there, we need to do X, Y, Z, because nothing else will work. Well, X, Y, Z won't work either. I don't know what works. I don't think anyone knows what works. I know that what we have tried doesn't, because we've had 5, 6, 7, 8,000 years to try, and we haven't succeeded. It's only getting worse. So something else needs to happen, which is a big part of why nonviolence is so key to the possibility of transformation. So instead, the path that I am talking about is the path of aligning means with life, of realigning us with life, which starts with aligning means with ends. It's an extremely rigorous practice. It's very hard. Just watch Pam. I've known Pam for quite a number of years. I have deep trust in Pam's heart and soul and orientation to nonviolence and care for the whole and all of that. Deep trust in it. And she wasn't able to maintain it in the face of one small need that got her desperate. Again, not a criticism, just watch what happens. So that's one bit. Another pathway to realign with life is that the mistrust and the shame that exist that we walk towards the actual experience that we have without separating from it. Slowly, 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 we can actually see what is going on instead of rejecting it. We can move towards softness as strength. And I will tell a story that I imagine some of you may have heard, which is that it's not a good story for this moment. I will probably tell it in a different moment. We embrace the capacity lens and only know to move towards vision. Like I told Rebecca, take one step, one small step that is within capacity in the direction of the vision, and keep doing that every day. Keep doing that, and you will grow capacity. My favorite example is what is happening within NGL in relation to the distribution of money, where money comes from and how we share it within NGL. We have the most radical system for this that I have seen. It's not perfect. I don't even know what a perfect system would be, but it distributes money based on gifts to people based on needs. That's simple. And we started, everybody who came into NGL came from the world of exchange. We had a vision. I wanted to just implement the vision. My colleagues say, no, that's beyond capacity for people. Let's take one small step at a time. Over the course of a few cycles of distribution, we've come to a very radical thing. So don't underestimate baby steps. And the last one is this image that I have of surrounding the patriarchal field with love. That's the path. So I want to contrast it again with the dilemma of the patriarchal means and go back and forth a couple more times so you get a visceral feel of the difference between trying to use patriarchal means and stepping outside into the not knowing what will work, not knowing if it will work. I don't know what just happened.
Accidentally, somebody unmuted. It's
Okay. So if we move back and forth and notice the difference in the experience of contemplating this, the not knowing and embracing life in how we move, even without knowing, to the knowing, these are the pathways that are available to us and they don't work. They haven't worked. They just contribute to more of the same. So I'm going to do this one more time. This is what we have now. It won't work. This is what we don't know whether or not it will work. And it will at least transform us and how we relate to what is happening. All right. Questions, comments, insights, feelings, overwhelm, excitement, whatever. Rebecca, I would love to hear from you again, and I want to wait to see if others, because I like to spread around who gets to talk. And I especially invite anyone here who is from communities and groups that don't ordinarily get to talk. Cornelia?
I'm feeling a huge, I'm feeling the struggle of both systems inside of myself. So I'm feeling this almost churning of, and then the open to possibility, and just trusting that small step in the direction of aligning the ends.
Yeah.
Is like an opening. I feel like an opening with this, because there's the contraction, which is a default for me. I'm feeling in my body the contraction is a default.
Yes.
And to remind myself with the brain, contraction. What's a small step of possibility?
Lovely. Being able to notice the contraction means that it lost a tiny bit of its power already. Because when it's in full swing, you are in it and you can't notice it. It's just, that's what is. When you can notice, it means that there's at least a little part of you that is outside its grip. That's an amazing step already. Just you being able to churn in this way, that's great. Thank you. Tina?
Morning, Mickey.
Hello.
As we're speaking about the going, outside of the system and collaboration and all of that, I'm thinking of Maui, the town Lahaina, the horrible tragedy of that, the wildfires there. And what I'm reading, speaking of the systems and such that aren't working, something didn't work there. It's, we know, of course, the climate change and all of that. And yet what I'm reading about is what's helping is neighbors are getting together, and they're people from other islands. There's like a professional surfer that's organizing, because the government isn't stepping in. And it's as much of a tragedy as that is, I guess that's called mutual aid. And it's a real living example of how mutual aid will be the way forward.
Yeah. When the systems fully collapse, like in specific incidents, then there is a moment of reset where we go outside of the autopilot and actually find a way to come together and think, what can we do?
Yeah.
This is part of why I am more and more convinced that we're not going to be able to change what is happening for as long as it's still functioning and doesn't collapse. Because the habit of going along with what is happening is so strong. So I have come to a very complex place of wishing for the speediest collapse possible. Because the thing will collapse. It is unsustainable. And my hope is that it collapses fast enough that there is still something left from the biosphere that we can collaborate to figure out what to do with. There isn't a path forward that isn't going to be massive suffering. The question is, how much of it can we minimize?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Rebecca, unless it's really brief, I would like to go back to the slides.
One sentence.
Yeah.
One sentence. How does one go about surrounding the patriarchal field with love when you're full of rage?
You can't. Then
Okay.
the first thing is to surround your rage with love. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I want to say that I am appreciating, as often happens, that people come here really ready to engage, and we get to touch very deep levels in a very short amount of time. It's very heartening for me. All right. Here is some of the powers of the soft qualities. One is when we embrace the soft qualities, it connects us with the actual experience of what's possible. Like Cornelia, we just felt the sense of possible. What is possible, how life can flow. Even if it's tiny, even if you need a microscope, you're reconnecting with something about life when you contemplate this and when you touch the soft qualities. Also, with the soft qualities, as we will see, we end up having more capacity to take in the horrors and metabolize them instead of tuning out, keeping ourselves protected and numb, or doing drugs to be able to go through life. The soft qualities allow us to stay with what is. also, all the soft qualities are scorned by patriarchy. You know, just look at any corporation and say that you want to teach nonviolent communication, and they go, oh, those are soft skills. Who needs soft skills? That's what I mean by scorn. If you show vulnerability, you're ridiculed. If you show tenderness, you're called naive. You know what I'm talking about. It's so prevalent that we don't even remember it. If we are able to restore to any degree qualities that are scorned, we're already doing something different. That's part of the power. And ultimately, my experience and that of others that are walking this path is that when we do this long enough, deep enough, consistently enough, sufficiently, we start to feel trust in life again. And when we feel trust in life and trust in humans, we have so much more power. These are some of the key elements that I have come to see in terms of the power of the soft qualities. And I want to go back now and see if this resonates for people, these powers that I just named. Does it resonate? Do something with your body. Yes, no, like this. Yes, it does. And do you have other ways in which you feel the power of the soft qualities that you would like to bring to our attention? Because I'm not in any way imagining that this is an exhaustive list and the only thing that exists. Is there any time in which you spontaneously adopted a soft response and you saw the power of it that you would like to bring to us? I mean, that's what babies do all the time, and babies are pretty powerful, considering that babies have no capacity to actually move themselves on their own, and their entire power is through communication. The softness of babies is super powerful. Just think of it like this. All right. Yes, Noor, you found another one?
It's a story. Is that work?
Condensed.
Okay.
Highlights.
Okay, I'll try. So I had last week I had a session with a client, and he's I'm trying to help him, you know, he was in prison for 5 years, and his default response to things is to fight. And we're kind of working through that. And he came in last session aggressive, and I didn't understand why. And there were times when he had his fists out at me. And there was a moment in the end where we had a transformation where he revealed something. But before that, he was role playing with me, and we were doing, it was this indirect thing where he was testing me. And he said, okay, how would you respond if you're playing me? I was playing him, and he was the aggressor at work. So he said, you're a softie. And then I said to him, well, I was actually being myself. I said, I'm actually not triggered by that. So maybe try something else. So then he goes, you're a faggot, and he kept going on all this stuff, right? And I said, I was really calm, and I said, what's the problem? What's the problem? And he said, wow, that diffused things for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, I had a story that you were this gay leader, and that somebody told me you were doing all this stuff. And he said, I was afraid that you were gonna convert me, you know? And he said that, and I realized that was part of why I've been feeling aggression with him. And I said to him, I don't know where you heard that from. I said, I am a gay man, but I said, like, I'm not really like I'm not doing activism. I'm not here to convert you. And he just looked so relieved. And I also said to him before, I said, so anyways, it was this interesting thing where I realized afterwards I had developed a certain degree of internal power because those words would have triggered me much younger, you know, some of the things he said, but it didn't. Yeah.
That's great. And how do you relate that to the soft qualities? Which soft quality were you leaning on?
Oh, great question. I guess I was maybe some vulnerability. There was vulnerability in this. There was like a humility, like I wasn't, and nonviolence. Like I wasn't, he wanted me to engage in fighting, and I just like was just simple about it. And it was very powerful.
Yeah.
And it was powerful for him too, to recognize, like he literally left and he's like, I put you in a box. And he's like, I didn't, you know, it's like, I regret I put you in it, like in a box. And he's been having the story about me for sessions that I might convert him if, you know, because of some story he had. And we really had to talk through it. I'm not sharing the whole story, but it was a powerful experience for both of us.
Yes. And the particular connection to what we're talking about is around humility and vulnerability, which we'll get to soon. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to talk about specific soft qualities. And there's going to be several of them, and I'm dividing them into 4 groups, which isn't all the soft qualities in the world, but just make some main ones, dividing them into 4 groups. The first group is just qualities that support us in moving towards softness, in whatever way we are moving towards softness. And then there are 3 more groups in relation to restoring choice, restoring togetherness, and restoring flow, which are the 3 shifts that are necessary to exit the patriarchal field, from scarcity to flow, from separation to togetherness, from powerlessness to choice, in the reverse order, because that's how we exit the trauma, is we start with choice. All right. So first, just in general, there are 3 general soft qualities that help us with anything that we want to do. The first one, anyone who's been around me has heard me talk about it ad nauseum, but maybe it's never ad nauseum. Maybe it's always an important reminder, because if we don't do mourning, all else eventually crumbles. Because if we don't do mourning, we absorb things. And when we absorb things, we reduce capacity. And when we reduce capacity within a patriarchal field, sooner or later, it's going to turn into some form of violence towards self or other. So mourning is absolutely essential for being able to hold the gap. And also, mourning is our way of keeping ourselves sustained by energy that isn't harsh. Every time things come up and we get urgency or whatever, we mourn, release, and come back to softness, and we can sustain the energy that keeps us going on the path towards vision. Second one is celebration. Celebration gives us energy in a different way. It connects us directly with vision. It reminds us that no matter how difficult things are, there are things that work. Within the experiments, the community experiments that I'm part of, we have a particular practice that we call celebration challenge. We generally do celebrations every time we get together for a meal or for a meeting or something like this. But let's say that we sit together at a meal and somebody says, oh, it's been a hard day, I don't have anything to celebrate. That's when we give them a celebration challenge, which could be finding things that worked in the day, even though it was a hard day. Or more advanced practice is to find things to celebrate about the challenge itself. That can be, so for example, Rebecca, if we look at your divorce, if I gave you a celebration challenge, one first thing that I know you could celebrate is the strength of your capacity to choose something that is true for you, even though the community is against it. That's a huge thing to celebrate. And there are probably 15 other things you could celebrate that we're not going to get to. But that's what it means to do a celebration challenge. It's to find the life, the little stray leaf that is coming up against all odds, all of it. And this gives us active energy so that we can keep going and keep working for change. So that's the second one of the kind of like baseline soft qualities. And the third one is my favorite. It's one that I didn't know about reverence. I am a child of scientific materialism. It had a particularly intense flavor. I come from Israel. A secular family in Israel is where I come from. And the secular families in Israel for many years took on, the whole secular sector took on scientific materialism with immense vigor because it was a negation of the diaspora, of the like sheep to the slaughterhouse, all these metaphors and images that were held within Israel about the Jews of Europe in particular. And it was all associated with religion. So we were trained to go against religion, against the spiritual, and only trust science and what we know and all of these things, which is really, really, really hard on the soul. It took me many, many years to recover the basic capacity for reverence that every little child has before it's taken out of us. Look at babies. I had the extraordinary privilege of being near an infant held within community for 5 months. An infant who wasn't told how to be, who wasn't coerced or whatever, an infant who was oriented to in the ways that I would want to. This is no longer the case because we're no longer there, but for 5 months, this infant had close to the kind of life I want infants to have, not in a nuclear family, well beyond. And watching that infant, watching that baby engage with the environment, look at it, admire it, take it in, absorb it, enjoy it, appreciate it, stay transfixed by whatever is happening. That is the basic quality of reverence. I really take lots of cues from infants. It's the best thing we have for remembering what it's like to be human before the intensity of what happens to us. And so I look to infants for clues about how to be for real. I'm not just saying this. I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, that's something for us to integrate. So there's something about life being meaningful and not a random collection of atoms that are banging on each other. That is the essence of reverence. And when we have enough of it, we can begin to de-instrumentalize all the relationships. So many of our relationships are fully instrumental, which means the other person or whatever the other form of life or an object is either an instrument to get our needs met or an obstacle to getting our needs met. If it's an instrument, we milk it. If it's an obstacle, we fight it. That's what an instrumental relationship is, and we have so many of them all over the place. With reverence, we can begin to actually appreciate every human relationship that we ever have with anyone, no matter how brief. All right. Let's see what arises in dialogue. Where are you all as we are moving in this direction, actually talking about the doing of it? What comes up for you when you imagine yourself walking this path? questions, confusion, celebrations, mournings. Bring it on. Sharon, Ian.
Hello, Mickey. It's Ian with a question,
Hello.
and I'm not sure. Hello. I'm not sure of my capacity to ask it because it is regarding reverence, and I come from a Zen background. And with NGL, I guess I see the capacity of NGL to respect silent spiritual practice as a place for where you can deepen softness.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether that's a question, but I guess where my challenge is being confronted with capacity limits on multiple fronts and multiple levels, and in that space, losing the softness to be able to extract myself from the noise and regain softness, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. So a couple of things come to mind. The first one is I'm wondering, Shar, about connecting Ian with Eddie, who is a deep Zen practitioner. And maybe you could have a fruitful conversation just about that. The second thing is, I have not done a whole lot of meditation or Buddhist practice, but I've done some. And one of the things, I need to conjure up a memory. And it's not going to be in the way that it was said to me. It's going to be in my own words. So bear with me. There can be a way that, let's say if I'm trying to meditate in a noisy environment, like physically noisy environment, there is a way that I can distance myself from the noise and just look at it as like, oh, why is there this noise? This is interfering with my meditation. And there is a way that I can fold the noise into my meditation. And I can then recognize that there's something within me that is fighting the noise. And whatever is fighting the noise isn't actually soft, isn't actually meditating, it's fighting. And if I remove, or at least perforate that line, that separation that I put between me and the noise, and let the noise come in, my meditation will change. It will be noisy, and I will be whole. I will be one. You know that kind of practice, yes? I imagine so.
Yeah, and I think when I felt deep softness within that practice, but gazing directly at the apocalypse we're facing, I think at best I've seen it. All the things that I am angry about, I see it as one organism, of which it's me as much as anyone else. Like it's just one mind that's doing this damage.
My favorite line in this regard comes from Sharif Abdullah. I think it's in the book, Creating a World That Works for All. He is actually the person who coined that meme, a world that works for all. I think it's in that book, it may have been someplace else, where he said this: when the Exxon Valdez, which is like a very iconic, many happened before or since, for whatever reason, that one has gotten some notoriety. When the Exxon Valdez crashed, it was carrying your oil to you. That to me captures that absurdity of how we fight against the oil companies, but we use what they produce for the comfort of our material lives. And it's not like we can choose not to do that. There are extreme limits to how far we can go away from the extractive technologies, because everything is set up in such a way that it's almost impossible to do. And so that's one entryway. I also noticed that you said extract myself from. And it was just noticeable for me that you use the verb extract, which is a very harsh verb. And I'm wondering if you can think it's instead of surrendering to what is happening and then find my pathway to softness within that, instead of extracting myself from what is happening to find the softness. Does that help?
Yes, I have no choice. I'm a ship captain that brings tankers in and out of this port. I'm complicit in the mess, which is, I think, that inability to with softness, witness and sit with our complicity creates great inner damage.
Yes.
It's horrible.
Yeah. Yes, and I think there's something about the word complicity that isn't sufficiently tender for me. It is still judging us for whatever we don't know to do differently.
So we can be angry, God.
I don't know about that. I know that we are not complicit out of lack of care or out of wanting to harm. We are complicit out of helplessness, lack of capacity, trauma, being separated from each other and not knowing how to come together. So the complicity isn't active. It's not that we are actively doing something. And I want to have clear tenderness for exactly where we are. That will help too, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Otherwise I'm trying to bring softness to the judgments that I have. Sure, I can bring softness to the judgments, and then I want to soften the judgments.
It's a patriarchal response in me to my own trauma.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Thanks.
And when we can see that, then there's that little tiny trickle of like, oh, there's a little tiny light. Let me follow it. And gradually build up the softness muscle.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I really loved it. Julia?
Good morning.
Good morning. It's not morning here, but good morning.
I was going to say at least morning here. I was just going to say that. You know, I'm in the same vein of questioning levels of exhaustion that we run up against, right? And so much of what we've talked about this morning is a sense of being exiled or doing the exiling, you know, being exiled from community or exiling ourselves from relationship, or just I've just watched a whole community of people just decide to disband due to lack of energy to keep it going, to step into leadership. You know, no one willing to step into leadership to keep a community going that is working on bringing more of these values into the world, right? So there's just a level of exhaustion we're all feeling that I think is pretty profound.
Morning.
Right. So we can mourn, and you know, that was part of my leadership for that group, actually, was to stop in the midst of that and bow to what is just right now. Just bow to it. Bow to our sense of loss, our sense of exhaustion, our sense of knowing what our limits are.
Yeah.
And so we bow to our limits. Great. It still doesn't keep us from being completely consumed by the destruction all around us in the, you know.
Yes. So I think there is a wedge that I want to put between mourning and thinking about what comes next. Because if we think about what comes next after the morning, we're not actually rigorously surrendering to the magic of the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we're going to mourn and then we're going to have energy and then we'll figure it out. No.
Yeah, no, in this particular circumstance, there was mourning and then it was over. It was done, you know, and I'm sure, as we know, mourning death, we don't know how long that takes, right? Mourning has its own trajectory for everyone. It's different for everyone.
Yes, for me, the key is not to think future, to be right here in the morning, in this moment. There's when I was doing the research for my dissertation, my PhD dissertation, I read a book that was really illuminating for me. I don't actually recommend the book. It's really quite technical. So it's not like, it takes a lot of reads to get the juice that I got from it. But just in case anybody is interested, it's called Uses of the Emotion by somebody Isaacs. I don't know. I really am not suggesting that people read it. The key things that I gleaned from it is that there's fear of emotion. He calls it affect phobia. Do you want to read a book that uses the language of affect phobia? I don't think so. It's not written for people who just want to read and learn. It's written for academics. And his claim is that emotions come in short waves. And if you don't have any resistance to the emotion, it won't last. It doesn't mean that there won't be another wave 2 seconds later, but the wave itself doesn't last very long if we fully surrender to it. And that's particularly important for mourning, because when we start tapping into mourning, it feels infinite. When we actually touch the depth of mourning that is there, it's huge. It's mourning of several billion people now over several thousand years. Although some people, thankfully for them, have only 531 years. It's a quiz. What happened 531 years ago? 531 years ago is 1492, when the, ratcheting up of all that is happening. It's like a symbolic year of when that happened. That degree of mourning is impossible for us to contemplate and envision. I always want to focus on exactly the wave that is here, that is actually alive here now. And it can be, I don't really care what it's about. It can be about what I did 5 minutes ago when I killed an ant. If I'm against killing ants and then here I am killing an ant, it could be about that. It doesn't really matter. It's just fully surrendering to the fullness of the morning in full abandon. And then the body knows how much is enough now.
Agreed. It's a good reminder. I know this truth about emotions only lasting about 30 seconds, really, I think is kind of what they say, if you actually embody them and turn towards them and pay attention. And Of course, my mind still goes to, and then what?
Exactly.
Right?
That's the resistance. That's exactly the resistance.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you, Julia. Calliope?
It's just brief, and it's like a body of work that's been in my mind the whole time. And then when Ian asked his question, I thought maybe it would be helpful. You probably also, some of you might be familiar with it, but it's Joanna Macy's work that reconnects, which for me is so much about soft qualities. And she's also a Buddhist practitioner, so maybe there is something in her work that allows you to bring those practices together, the soft qualities and meditations and so on, and also honoring the pain of what's happening in the world. So yeah, just wanted
Yes, and Shara is a work that reconnects practitioner. So I think there is a in-house access. How convenient. All right, thank you. Okay, my suggestion is that we do small groups now. We are going to cover more soft qualities, but I have a sense this is a decent time to like take a break. And Marcella, what I propose is you create groups, and when you go into your group, you have half an hour, and it's 100% your choice how you want to divide the time within the half hour. If you want to do it all break, you've absorbed so much and you don't really want to be in a small group. First of all, you can say not to do in a small group, but if you want to like do 20 minutes of break and 10 minutes of connecting in the group, no problem. If I would advise you not to do the small group for the whole time, because I don't think that human bodies are designed to be sitting in one spot for 3 hours. So I urge you to take a break, but I'm not going to tell you to take a break. Can't, don't want to. But you divide the time however you want to, and we restart 30 minutes after the group start. And what I want you to do in the group is two things. And of course, you know the secret. Maybe you don't know it. It doesn't matter what I tell you. You're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to do what you're going to want to do, whether or not it's what I told you. Even you might think that you're doing what I told you, but you're going to do what you're going to do. I'm just giving you information to feed into it, which is please first share with each other. How are you being affected by what we're looking at today? Because these NGL intros, those who've been coming here for a while already know it. It's heavy duty. It's not fluff. We're looking at really intense things and how we mobilize to care for intense things. So that intensity has impact. I want you to connect with each other about that impact. And then I want you to choose one of the three soft qualities that we've talked about so far and see if you can think of a way to bring it into your life. Practical way, not an intention, like an actual practical way to bring it into your life. So an intention can be, yeah, I want to cultivate more mourning. That is not something I have a huge amount of trust in because the grooves of the patriarchal mindset are stronger than our intentions. That's why we need to anchor them in practice. An example of a practice is, I remember my friend Pam, who I know cares about mourning, and I'm going to call her and set up a weekly time that we get together and mourn. That's a practical way of bringing the soft quality into your life. So that's what I'm asking you to do in the small group. And maybe let's take 35 minutes so you have more spaciousness to settle into it. So that means when we start, you time it for 34 minutes and the last minute is coming back. Before we go, I want to see if anybody has any questions that would interfere with your ability to make meaningful use of your time in the small group. All right, either people have no questions or they just don't want to ask them, regardless of what it is. You ready to put people in a group, Marcela?
Yes, and it's just a reminder that if you have an equal sign, just ignore the invitation. Otherwise, everybody's in rooms. Thank you.
All right. So we start again at 10 minutes after the hour, or in the places that are on the half hour, it's 40 minutes after the hour. right, bye. Welcome back. All right. I think everyone is here. So I'd like to take a couple of minutes to see if there's anyone that is coming from anything that is coming from anyone that you would like to share from what happened in your group, particularly inviting people who have not spoken yet. It's very common within events for some people to speak and then speak again and speak again. And it's lovely because it builds a conversation. And then there are others who just don't speak at all. So I'm wondering if there's anyone who hasn't spoken, who has something that happened in your small group that you would like to share. Anyone else, whether or not you've spoken before, anything that you'd like to share? Hey, hello.
Hi again. Hi, Mickey. I had a very nice chat with Julia, and we kind of zoomed out into a kind of a global context about NGL and about softness and how it applies to kind of like countries, because I'm right now in China and from China, and she is from US, and we're talking about how crazy it is what's happening to our countries and kind of the complete mirroring that I feel that is basically operating off the same logic of dominance and power and patriarchy, and how sad it is that recently I'm connecting more to the ancient philosophies and traditions of Chinese culture and how it's totally based on peace and based on connectedness, and we're just so far away from that and so separated from the land and from people and from the elders. And I wonder how the power of softness can manifest on these bigger scales, and I guess like harder for us to grasp outside of just one individual or one group. And how does it work on a national level? And like I don't know.
Are you talking about how one government relates to another, or are you talking about something else? It's not clear to me what you're talking about, because once we zoom out, it gets so blurry, and I want to remain focused.
Yes.
Are you focusing on foreign affairs of countries, or are you focusing on dismantling states altogether? Are you focusing on changing the economy? What exactly is the focus?
Yeah, I guess my focus is on how I think, in my limited understanding of how China used to operate as a country, based on qualities that I think are soft, and how
I'm not sure what you're referring to specifically. But
I think foreign affairs. Yeah.
In my understanding, the philosophies that arose from China at that time, I don't know if you're talking about Confucius, for example.
Yeah, Confucius and Taoism specifically.
Yeah, because they were created in times of quite a bit of empire. If you actually look at what was going on, you can think of the philosophy as peace, but its material context wasn't.
That's true.
So when you say China was operating like this, which China are you talking about? These are really serious questions. I'm not trying to take apart what you're saying. I'm trying to train you and all of us to think with rigor so that we don't blur categories.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is a very blurry thing for me to conceive of the idea of softness, and the material reality that it manifests through. And yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just so hard to find an example where softness manifests through a material reality that I can only kind of abstractly think of softness.
So I think the value of care and solidarity, which is a soft value, regularly appears on the material plane when there's a disaster somewhere. That cuts through existing structures, and people who don't know the people who were affected by the disaster will send them something. That's an example for me. But in reality, I don't think that we have collectively the imagination to imagine a transition that is soft.
A transition
from what we have now to a way of being that really and truly manifests peace and interconnection.
Yeah.
Because it's not consistent with having states. That is clear to me at this point. It didn't used to be clear. States hold violence. States have their power from armies and police and people's willingness to follow alone without needing the army and police. That's what gives states their power, a compelling story and an army. And so if we want to really live in a soft reality, no armies, no police. It's very hard for most people to imagine that. And even harder to imagine, even if you manage to imagine human beings self-organizing in collective, smart ways around the globe, even if you can imagine that. And there are pockets where that happens. The biggest pocket that we've ever had is Rojava. I don't know if you've heard of Rojava.
Yeah.
Rojava is a region within Syria that is functioning fundamentally bottom up for 5 million people. Read about it. And they are under siege. So it's not an easy thing. That's an interesting pocket. But by and large, we don't have models of large groupings of people that function collaboratively. So even if we can imagine it, looking at where we are now, how do we move to a collaborative future? That imagination is even harder than to imagine what it could look like to collaborate and to be soft with each other on a large scale. I think it's essential for us to imagine, because it's very clear to me that if we can't imagine it, it won't happen. It doesn't mean that if we can imagine it, it will happen. I think the odds are low. I think the odds are much higher that we are continuing on the march to extinction. But fundamentally, something that we can't imagine, we can't make happen. That is very clear to me.
Can you personally imagine?
I can imagine in great detail the whole human affairs functioning in full collaboration in great detail. I'm still struggling to imagine a transition, but I have given myself a discipline to tell transition stories that are at least plausible, even if not likely. And I've come up with a few.
Where can we read about it? Or
Packet, one of the learning packets called Working for Transformation Without Recreating the Past. Somebody who knows where to find the learning packets, please put it in the chat.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for asking. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the remaining slides. So I want to convey from Sabrina, who does the visuals, which I really like, that she's not happy that the humility image that she found is very obviously religious. And we are not in any way trying to connect humility with religion. She just literally couldn't find another image, and at least it does convey some version of humility. So the two soft qualities that I think of as most significant for restoring choice, specifically choice, from the clutches of the powerlessness and loss of agency and all of that, are vulnerability and humility. The vulnerability is an antidote to protection, and the humility is an antidote to control, which are the two places that we so easily go to and lose choice in. So it's one of the most inconvenient aspects of nonviolence, which is that in order to embrace it, we need to let go of safety. It's very hard for many people to actually accept letting go of safety, because safety has been painted as the most essential baseline. It isn't. The most essential baseline that I see is aliveness. And I will tell a story that I wrote about it in one of my blog posts from the COVID time, the early part of the pandemic. I was driving from somewhere to somewhere in Scotland, and there was a little piece of grass by the road, and on it were two ravens. And I saw them. They were just standing there. They weren't doing anything in particular. I just saw them. And I suddenly got it that they're free. They are free in a way that only babies know for a while. Adults don't have that experience of such freedom. Simultaneously, they're not safe. They're totally not safe, and they don't mind it. They are free, and any second something could happen to them and their life could be over in a second. And that kind of freedom requires that kind of willingness and surrender to release. That's one aspect of the vulnerability. And related to that is willingly accepting the consequences of what happens from the vulnerability, from releasing protection. We can't do nonviolence without it. And why am I even talking about nonviolence when I'm talking about choice? Because for me, nonviolence is the best training ground for reclaiming choice, because it is about non-reactive discernment, moment by moment, non-reactive discernment, which antidotes the deep groove of fight or flight that has taken over all the complexity of responding to life that exists, including multiple threat responses that don't go to fight or flight. Like alarmed aloneness, like other reactions, which now all of them get diverted into fight or flight. So that's vulnerability. Humility is about releasing the idea that humans are somehow omnipotent. We can know everything. We are outside the cycle of life. We can control it. We can dictate it. For a well-educated Western mind, it's almost impossible to not know, to just relaxedly sit and not know is very hard. I don't know enough about other cultures, whether the imperative to know how well baked it is into it. I know that hubris, this idea that we are above the laws of nature or the laws of the gods, as it was in the origin of where hubris came from, which is in Greek tragedy. Releasing that is an enormous act, and I am constantly, again and again, trying to release more and more and more and more of any sense that I know anything. And that makes it easier to choose more fully, because I don't have to be in some have to know. And I can expand the range of options that are available to me. Want to pause, see if there are any clarity questions. Right now, I want only if there are clarity questions, then I want to do togetherness and flow, and then come back to a bit of discussion. Is there any lack of clarity anywhere? Okay. Back to restoring togetherness. And here there are, Katerina, I didn't see your hand in time. Go ahead.
I'm wanting clarity on like practically releasing having to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want an example of a practice?
Yeah.
Just anybody asks you a question, just practice saying, I don't know.
Okay.
Literally, it's very simple, especially when you're in any small bit of authority. How is that to contemplate?
It's simpler than I thought, so happy about that.
Another practice is to take the future tense out of your language. As in, I'll call you back tomorrow. You don't know that. You do know, I'm putting it on my list to call you tomorrow, that you know. But I'm going to call you tomorrow, you don't know.
Okay. All right.
You see, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
That's like inshallah or God willing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Except that it exports it outside of me and doesn't radically own. I actually can't know. I don't know everything. I can't know everything. I'm just one human. Okay? All right, togetherness. So there are two qualities that I picked for this one. It's not like these qualities don't support choice or vulnerability doesn't support togetherness. It's like the quintessential qualities that I want to associate with each of these restorations. And we talked about the capacity limits. Tenderness is essential to not force ourselves or anybody else into overriding our capacity limits. It is so easy for us, for example, to say, oh, she says she doesn't have capacity, but I think she just doesn't want to. Why? Why do we do that? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, all of you. We have very little muscle in just recognizing that whatever people are doing is what is available for them to do. And if they had the capacity to do better, they would. You know, there is this sentence, everybody does the best they can, that has been so overused that it actually kind of lost meaning. What does it mean to do the best that we can? It has a specific meaning. It has the meaning that if we found capacity to do something that is more aligned with our values, that is more caring, that is more something, then we would do it. It's about faith in humans' organic desire to serve. If you don't have that faith, you can't restore tenderness. You can't lead with tenderness if fundamentally you don't think well of humans. So it actually is a rigorous practice to do it if we're not already freed up from the patriarchal stories about how everyone is selfish and out for themselves. Which is where the remembering each other's vulnerability and humanity comes in, is I used to, before I knew about anything called NVC or any of those things, I used to have a little practice for myself. Whenever there were people that I felt other from, I would try to remind myself that that person was once born. Everyone that is alive, whatever they have done, however old or young they are, they had to have been born. So this person that is, you know, crazy, cruel, whatever they are, this person was once an infant that was born, and I would like to believe that for a few seconds at least was once loved. That was really helpful to develop that practice. And then with that, we can adopt the tragic lens instead of judging anything. The tragic lens is one of my favorite soft qualities. Is one of the ways that I can make it more possible for me to look at the horrors and to go into mourning. It is about recognizing that we tell stories in which they're bad guys. And we don't have to tell those stories. We can tell other stories. I can tell a story of a set of tragedies that have befallen our species for a long time that we don't know how to recover from. It's possible to humanize every single person who has ever lived. And I put energy into trying to imagine what it's like to be people I can't fathom. What is it like to have made this choice or that choice? What is the experience of it? What might be the thoughts of that person? What are they thinking about? What are they eating? To really see everyone as human. Those two pieces are soft qualities that can really, really, really support us in restoring togetherness. Again, we'll go back just for clarity questions before moving to the last of this series of 3. Any clarity question on the qualities I invite us into to support us in restoring togetherness? Okay. And the
Mickey,
last, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm curious because Pam did bring in something in the chat, making an offering to others if they resonated to bring in their voice, but no one has. And I'm wondering, Pam, if you'd like to bring this in now, even though your voice has been heard before.
It's not a clarification, but thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm planning to open a discussion after the third one for all of them together. Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Marcella. Okay, the last one is the soft qualities that are needed for restoring flow. This is where it goes the deepest, because in order to restore flow, it is essential to cultivate generosity and receptivity. If we don't have generosity, we will stop the flow. When we have things, we won't pass them on. And if we don't have receptivity, we won't allow things to come to us. The uncoupling of giving from receiving is foundational to being able to restore flow within the human realm. And these two qualities are absolutely necessary. There was a time, I remember in 1997, I had a bout of cancer. And I remember in one of the first several days of adapting to the new reality in which I could possibly die, and in which I was facing all kinds of massive decisions about what I was going to do, what treatment I would or would not accept, and all of that. I was walking into a store, and there was a person who was asking for money. It was very common in the United States, where I was living at the time. And I was walking by with some kind of a thought like, oh, I have too much on my plate. I can't do this. And I caught it. And I said to myself, I don't want to live like this. Even if I'm going to die, I don't want to live like this. And I went back and gave a little bit of money to that person. And it's not about the giving of money. It's actually more about the giving of my attention, my presence, my being. I oriented outward instead of in the contraction of the scarcity. There isn't enough. That's an example of what I mean by this practice. It's orienting to giving, not necessarily giving as in sacrifice, but giving as a joy. The generosity is joy of being able to share what exists within me. And within that, it requires us to release into trust in life again. And within the trust in life, we accept finitude and death. Trust in life doesn't mean I'm always going to be safe, I'm always going to be okay, because to say I'm always going to be safe and okay is to say I'm never going to die. Nothing bad is ever going to happen to me. That's not what life is. Life is a cycle. Life is a cycle of birth and death and decay and illness and pain and miracles and recovery. And I want to surrender to that and give and pass on whatever exists within me. So that's one side of the restoring flow. And the other one is receptivity, which we don't have a problem with when we are very small. Because the only way we can survive is by receiving. So at a certain point, we are receiving and receiving and receiving and receiving and receiving and receiving. And the only thing we give is our joy in receiving. There's nothing better than a full face smile of a baby delighted in an interaction with you. It's like it's so much concentrated joy and connection when that happens. And that is a baby accepting what you're giving them without giving in return. The whole idea that in order to receive, we need to give breaks and breaks and breaks again and again the flow of life. Opening to receiving and receiving and receiving and receiving and receiving, either directly from life or through other gifts, that prepares us for living in flow, prepares us for going back to that place that I said at the beginning of accepting that we depend on the love of others. It's hardest for people who have lots of money. Because when you have lots of money, it's hardest to grasp that you depend on love from others, because others give to you without love. They give to you because you have money to give to them. That's not receptivity. That's not generosity. That's the essence of alienation of relationship that exchange is. So that's what I'm inviting us into here. All right. Now it's time to have a bit of a conversation before I show you the last slide. What are your thoughts, imaginations as you contemplate walking and embracing those soft qualities and choosing to live in this way when the entire social order doesn't? When most of the time your family doesn't, your friends don't, your coworkers don't, the country that you live in doesn't function this way, and yet it is entirely an option to choose to move in this direction. I can't tell you how far you can go, but you can go at least one step. And what is it like to contemplate actually doing that? Not like, oh, that's great. That was so inspiring what Mickey said. That's not what I'm seeking. I'm seeking companions. And I want to know, what is it like for you when you contemplate that? Anyone willing to be in a short bit of conversation about that? Julia, I see your hand, but that's only because we don't have that many people. Otherwise, I would ask you to do your electronic hand.
Okay.
But anyway, here's Alice, and let's hear from Alice first because she hasn't spoken before. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling is this releasing the sense of obligation.
Exactly.
So it's with joy, with this sense of freedom. And even the word, so what came to mind was the words ebb and flow. As if they're in opposition, but they're not. They're part of the give and receive and the peace. So is there another word for the opposite of ebb, so that or whatever it is that you can think of that can help me to
I'm not thinking of it as opposite. I just think of it as cycles.
Right, but that flow is the composition of both. It's the this and the this.
Yeah, I don't know English well enough.
Right. And so there's this, but that sense, releasing that sense of obligation. Oh, if they gave me this, then I have to do something for them. Or I gave them this, now they have to do something. And if they don't, it's almost like it's, yes, two parts of a wave. Thank you, Pam. And that this sense of like not being appreciated if they don't reciprocate.
Yeah.
So it's that it's like it's a vicious cycle as opposed to an organic, natural cycle.
We can learn from the moon, waxing and waning.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. So that's the impact of it. And the small step that I'm seeing is maybe for me just asking, I'd really thanking someone for letting me do something for them.
Nice.
Thank you for asking for my help. Thank you for yeah.
Love it. Thank you. And just for clarity, I was inviting people to talk about all three, or all six of the qualities, not necessarily the last slide. It was all of them. I just wanted to go through all three of them before we had a conversation. Yeah. Thank you, Alice. Julia?
Yeah, thank you. I always get caught around issues of abuse when we're talking about releasing a sense of safety and, power over, and especially women who are in abusive relationships with men. And, you know, I mean, the wisdom is not just get soft there and, you know.
Okay, let me just, let me cut to the chase, as they say, and be really
Yes,
brief.
please.
I can use force and do it with love. The point is not what we do. The point is how open our heart is. Do you see what I mean?
I'm hearing you. And, you know, I was going back to what you said in the very first part, which is intensity can come along with softness. And boy, do I struggle with that, because I know when I'm in my intensity, it's something, you know, it's not soft. It doesn't feel soft to me.
I can tell you, many years ago, I was having a mediated conversation with someone who wanted me to collaborate with them and be close to them. And I didn't want to. And it was there was definitely intensity there. And somebody supported us. And through that support, for 20 minutes, what I was able to do was I was crying throughout the 20 minutes, telling the person in detail, which I don't remember, why I was saying no to closeness with them. And yet how much simultaneously I wanted them to thrive, and how sad it is for me that that's actually the truth of it. I don't want to. But it isn't that I don't care about them. And I had the most amazing experience when I was done doing that, which was concentrated truth with love. When I was done doing that, the thought that I had is, I could die now and it would be fine. This is what it means to be human. And I felt complete and total peace. And it's super.
That's not a situation of abuse. It doesn't sound like.
No, I'm giving you a particular example. What I would say about abuse is I will walk away from the abuse, and I will express mourning that there are no better options for us. I don't want to make the person who is abusing me the villain that needs to be punished. I want to have tenderness for whatever happened to them that led to them abusing me, even while I walk away and protect myself. Chew on it. It's not something we can resolve with 2 more minutes of talking.
Of course.
And if somebody has capacity to put in the chat the link to my article, there is Nonviolent Use of Force and Oxymoron. If you can find that and put it in the chat, I would really appreciate that. All right. One last slide, and then we're going to be done and do closing. And that is what I want to leave you with. It's an image of what I call in this moment collective islands of liberation, which is what we're trying to do within NGO, to whatever degree we are successful, which I have a lot of humility about. I think everyone within NGO has a lot of humility about this at this point. And with all the humility, I look at what we're doing and I'm in awe. So we are orienting to purpose and values in a very clean and focused way. We are super committed to staying within willingness and capacity, not more, not coercing, not extracting, not forcing, not blaming, not shaming. And we're trying to embed the soft qualities within systems. And I want to give examples of what this can look like. If we take humility and we integrate it, we embed it within decision-making systems, then it supports integrative decision making, which is the only kind of decision making that really sustains collaboration over time. If we take receptivity and anchor it within the flow systems, within resource flow systems, then it supports flow. And if we can anchor tenderness and curiosity within systems that deal with conflict, then our responses to conflict are going to be more creative. So these are just like what some people are calling vision drops. This isn't a manual for how to create this. It's just, I wanted to leave you with a little sense of like, oh, wow, maybe something like this is possible. All right. So before we close, I want to invite people to think about what comes next if you have an interest in actually participating. And there are a few things. One is I want everyone who is interested in being somehow part of this experiment to try to join us, become an NGL friend, come to meetings, come to events, not just learning events, but what we are actually doing, and see what it looks like. All the imperfections, we are transparent about everything. Number two, there's always a call for generosity, and I want to invite you to consider whether there is any more capacity and willingness for you to offer and direct more gifts on the material plane towards NGL. Everything that we do depends on gifts received from people. I'm talking about financial gifts at this point. And so far, the amount of money that comes from these events is not what we were hoping for. And I'm surprised and curious, and I'm always asking people, is it possible for you to give more? And if it's possible, are you willing? There's no demand, no expectation, only an invitation into generosity. And I think that's all that I have by way of invitation. And at this point, I want to hear from people what you're taking with you. What is staying with you? What do you imagine yourself doing differently, possibly tomorrow, based on what happened here today? That's all that's left before we leave. Sarah and Ian.
I'm inspired to have the celebration challenge. So where there's a challenge, to find something to celebrate about that challenge. Yeah, I'm really inspired by that.
Great. Thank you. What else is going on for people? Yes, Noor.
You didn't say quite in these words, but I want to integrate this, that the payoff of releasing safety is freedom.
Yes, I would like you to find words that don't have payoff.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. Okay, the byproduct. Oh gosh, that's probably not the best either.
You see, this is great. We just see how permeated that mindset is. It's great. I love it that
the moment of humility, Mickey.
Yeah. Try again. Slow down, and let it move through you at the body level and see if words emerge from that.
The gift of releasing safety is freedom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. You got a lot of people to smile. Isn't that nice? What else are you all taking with you from today? Katerina.
For me, I'm taking that for receptivity, I can offer thank you if I don't have to sort of counter the fear of how can I repay them.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting, isn't it, that in many languages, the response to thank you literally means it's for nothing. Like in Spanish, it's de nada or something like this. And what is that saying? It's saying the giver is saying to the receiver who expresses gratitude, it's nothing, meaning you don't have a debt. I didn't do something that would create debt in you. You're released from debt. It goes back to the early days of states and markets and debt and slavery and all of that. It's fascinating. Thank you. Tina.
Speaking of the response to thank you, I've traveled to Costa Rica several times lately, and when I say gracias or muchas gracias to someone, they don't say de nada, they say con mucho gusto. Meaning
oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's their pleasure. It's my and it reminded me of your example about the person asking for money, and you were feeling very like, oh, I can't, I'm scarcity, and then reaching out to them was a gift to yourself, and it, like you said, it wasn't the amount of money, it's like the dignity. And I don't know if dignity is that one of those words that we need to translate, and just recognizing their humanness, whatever you would call that. It's just a gift to both, just reciprocal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Costa Rica has a police force. They don't have an army. They're the first country in the world to have abolished an army. That was in 1948. And I think there are only 2 other places in the world that don't have an army.
Yeah, you can just feel there's just that pura vida, and the people are just quite wonderful. Yeah, not that they aren't other places, but yeah, thank you.
Here's how I would say it. There's a certain layer of stress that is smaller there. It's not that the people are wonderful, it's that the people are operating with less stress. And then the beauty of being human shines more easily. All right. Anyone else before we close? All right. Yes, Katerina, one more thing? No, it's from before. Okay, yes. Ian, Shar, one of you.
It's Ian. Just feel to express gratitude for today. And I think for me, I take away a deeper realization about mourning in particular, but the way that it's woven into our much deeper willingness to engage lovingly with life, because all of those 6 things that you mentioned really are a form of loving wonder. You cannot mourn without connection, really, in a way. Like,
absolutely.
And it's the same with celebration, same with humility. They're all ways that we come to life with greater sensitivity.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
all
you.
right. I look
Mickey,
forward. Yeah.
I just want to remind you, just because Ian spoke, that the next session in September, Eddie will be there as well. So there's an additional
that's true.
invitation.
Yeah, Eddie and I are doing that one together. It's about impact sharing, which is one of our core practices. And Eddie and I have had a million conversations about it, so we decided to do it together. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye all. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.